I was standing in the bank manager's office when the entire building went silent. Every computer screen froze. Every transaction stopped. Security guards rushed toward the vault. And my sister Celeste, who'd been scrolling through her phone in the waiting area, finally looked up with confusion spreading across her perfectly contoured face. "What's happening?" she asked the receptionist, her voice carrying that same condescending tone I'd heard my entire life. The manager across from me had gone pale, his finger hovering over the phone. "Miss Ravenna, I need to make a call. This withdrawal amount is unprecedented." I smiled calmly, crossing my legs. "Take your time." 3 years earlier, I'd asked Celeste for $150. Just enough to cover my electricity bill after an unexpected car repair had drained my account. I remember her laugh, that sharp theatrical sound she made when she wanted everyone around her to know she found something ridiculous. "Seriously, Ravenna? You can't even manage $150. She'd been sitting in our parents' living room, fresh from a shopping trip, bags from expensive boutiques scattered around her feet. "What do you even do with your money? Oh wait, you probably spent it all on those pathetic online courses you're always taking." My mother had glanced up from her magazine. "Celeste, don't be cruel." But there was no real reprimand in her voice. There never was. Celeste had always been the golden child. Beautiful, charming, married to a successful orthodontist named Henrik who drove a Porsche and took her to Santorini twice a year. I was the quiet one, the boring one, the one who worked as a data analyst and lived in a small apartment with furniture from second-hand stores. "I'm not being cruel, I'm being honest," Celeste had said, examining her manicured nails. Maybe if Ravenna learned to budget properly, she wouldn't be begging family members for money. She'd pulled out her phone, made a show of opening her banking app, then laughed again. "You know what? I literally spent more than that on lunch today. $150. That's so sad." I'd felt my face burn. "Forget it. I'll figure it out." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Celeste had said, waving her hand dismissively. "I'm just saying you need to get your life together. You're 32 years old, Ravenna. When are you going to stop struggling?" I'd left without another word. I'd figured out the electricity bill by selling some old textbooks and picking up extra freelance work. But something had shifted in me that day. The humiliation had burned itself into my chest, not as a wound, but as fuel. See, what Celeste didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that those pathetic online courses she'd mocked were in blockchain technology, cryptocurrency architecture, and digital asset management. For 3 years, I'd been working my regular job during the day and building something else entirely at night. I'd started small. $1,000 invested in an emerging cryptocurrency that most people had never heard of. Then I'd done something different. Instead of just holding it, I'd started consulting for the company behind it, helping them optimize their transaction algorithms. They'd paid me partially in equity, partially in their tokens. When they'd offered me a position as their chief technical officer, I'd almost said no. It seemed too risky. But then I'd remembered Celeste's laugh, my mother's passive dismissal, the way my father had looked at me with something like pity. I'd taken the job. 18 months later, our cryptocurrency had exploded. The technology we'd built became the backbone for 3 major financial institutions. The tokens I'd been accumulating, the equity I'd earned, suddenly became worth more than I could have imagined. But I'd stayed quiet. Kept living in my small apartment. Kept driving my 10-year-old sedan. Kept showing up to family dinners where Celeste talked about Henrik's latest promotion and their plans to buy a vacation home in the Alps. "How's work, Ravenna?" my father would ask, the same polite disinterest in his voice every time. "Fine," I'd say. "Busy. Still doing that computer thing?" Celeste would ask, not really listening for an answer. Something like that. 3 months ago, our company had gone public. My equity had converted to stock. Combined with my cryptocurrency holdings, my net worth had crossed $4 billion. I'd sat in my apartment, staring at the numbers on my screen, feeling absolutely nothing at first. Then I'd started laughing. Crying. Both at once. I'd called my financial advisor. I want to liquidate a portion of my holdings. How much are we talking about, Miss Ravenna? $3.8 billion. There'd been a long silence. I'll need to make some calls. I'd chosen today deliberately. Friday afternoon. I knew Celeste had a hair appointment at the salon 2 blocks from the main branch of Helvetia First National, the most prestigious bank in our city. I'd mentioned I had some banking to do and suggested we get coffee afterward. She'd agreed with that sort of patronizing enthusiasm she used whenever she thought she was being kind to her struggling little sister. Now, sitting in the bank manager's office while the entire institution ground to a halt, I watched him speak urgently into his phone. Yes, sir. $3.8 billion. No, sir, that's not a typo. Yes, sir, she's here now. Yes, proper identification and authorization. The funds are verified. He hung up and looked at me with something like awe. Miss Ravenna, the regional director is on his way. A withdrawal of this magnitude requires multiple authorizations. We'll also need to coordinate with the Central Reserve. I've been in banking for 27 years, and I've never processed a transaction of this size. I understand, I said calmly. I'm happy to wait. Through the glass wall of his office, I could see Celeste standing now, talking to a security guard. Her expression had shifted from annoyed to concerned. Other customers were murmuring, phones out, some filming the unusual security activity. The manager's phone rang again. He answered, listened, then turned to me. Miss Ravenna, would you mind stepping into our private VIP suite? The regional director would like to speak with you there. It's more comfortable. Of course. As I stood, Celeste caught my eye through the glass. She mouthed, "What's going on?" I just smiled and followed the manager. The VIP suite was on the second floor, a room I'd never known existed. Leather chairs, mahogany desk, oil paintings on the walls. 3 men in expensive suits were already waiting, along with a woman who introduced herself as the head of the bank's wealth management division. Miss Ravenna, the regional director said, shaking my hand with both of his. What an unexpected pleasure. Please, sit. Can we get you anything? Water? Coffee? Champagne? Water is fine, thank you. For the next 40 minutes, they walked me through the process. The withdrawal would take 3 business days to fully execute due to the amount. They'd need to move funds from multiple accounts, coordinate with international reserves, prepare secure transport. They offered me investment services, wealth management, private banking solutions. We'd be honored to maintain your relationship with Helvetia First National, the director said. A client of your caliber. Actually, I interrupted gently, I'm moving my remaining assets to Kronstadt Private Bank. They've offered me better terms. The silence that followed was spectacular. Perhaps we could revisit our offer, the wealth management director said quickly. I'm sure we can match. The decision is made, I said. But thank you. When I finally emerged from the VIP suite, the main banking floor was crowded with staff and curious customers. Word had spread that something unprecedented was happening. I spotted Celeste immediately. She'd positioned herself near the main desk, chatting with a teller she probably thought would give her information. She rushed over when she saw me. Ravenna, what is going on? They won't tell anyone anything, but people are saying someone is withdrawing billions of dollars. Can you believe that? The whole bank is frozen. I've been trying to deposit a check for 20 minutes. How frustrating, I said. It really is. Who do these rich people think they are, disrupting everything for normal customers? She glanced at her phone. I'm going to be late for my hair appointment because of this. Henrik is going to be so annoyed. We have that charity gala tonight, and I specifically booked. Celeste, I said quietly. Something in my tone made her stop. It's me. What's you? The withdrawal. It's mine. She laughed. That same dismissive sound. Right. Very funny, Ravenna. I'm withdrawing $3.8 billion. Her smile faltered. That's not even a good joke. Why would you? The regional director approached us, his expression professionally warm. Miss Ravenna, we have the preliminary paperwork ready for you to review. And I wanted to personally assure you that. Wait, Celeste said, her voice sharp. Did you just call her Miss Ravenna? Like formally? Yes, ma'am. Miss Ravenna is one of our most significant clients. He turned back to me. If you'll just follow me, we can finalize the initial documentation. I watched Celeste's face carefully. The confusion, the denial, then the slow, creeping realization. Her perfectly glossed lips parted. Her eyes widened. The color drained from her cheeks beneath her expensive makeup. Ravenna, she whispered. What is he talking about? Exactly what he said. But you're a data analyst. You live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old car. You asked me for $150. I did, I agreed. 3 years ago. You laughed at me. Do you remember what you said? She was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. This isn't real. This is some kind of mistake. No mistake. I made a very successful series of investments. Started a company. Went public. And now I'm liquidating a portion of my assets. A portion. Her voice cracked. How much do you have? I smiled. Enough. Miss Ravenna, the director prompted gently. 1 moment, please. I turned back to Celeste. You know what's interesting? That $150 you mocked me for needing? I spent more than that on coffee last month. Didn't even notice. But I remember every word you said that day. How sad my financial situation was. How I needed to get my life together. Ravenna, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. And that's fine. It motivated me. Tears were forming in her eyes now, but they weren't sad tears. They were shocked, humiliated tears. Around us, people were watching, whispering. Someone's phone was definitely recording. Why didn't you tell anyone? She asked. Why didn't you tell the family? Because you all made it very clear what you thought of me. Dad with his polite disinterest. Mom with her gentle disappointment. You with your outright contempt. I didn't need your validation then, and I don't need it now. But we're your family. Family doesn't mock each other for struggling. Family doesn't laugh when someone asks for help. I picked up my bag. I need to go finalize this paperwork. Enjoy your hair appointment. I hope it's worth more than $150. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Celeste? That charity gala tonight? The one you're attending with Henrik? I'm the primary sponsor. My company donated $2.3 million. I'll be there too. Try not to laugh at me in front of the other donors. Her face went absolutely white. The next 3 hours were a blur of paperwork, verification calls, and security protocols. The bank had to coordinate with 4 different financial institutions, 2 international reserves, and their central headquarters. At one point, the CEO of Helvetia First National joined the call personally to thank me for being a client and beg me to reconsider moving my remaining assets. I appreciate the attention, I told him, but my decision stands. By the time I left the bank, it was almost evening. News vans had gathered outside. Apparently, word had leaked about the unprecedented withdrawal, though they didn't have my name yet. I slipped out through a side entrance the bank security team had arranged. My phone had been buzzing non-stop. 17 missed calls from Celeste. 8 from my mother. 3 from my father. Multiple text messages ranging from confused to frantic. Celeste's texts were particularly interesting to read. Ravenna, please call me. I don't understand what's happening. Are you seriously a billionaire? This can't be real. Mom and Dad are freaking out. They saw the news about the bank. People are saying it's you. Ravenna, please. We need to talk about this. I'm sorry about what I said 3 years ago. I was having a bad day. You know I didn't mean it. That last one made me laugh out loud. A bad day. 3 years of dismissiveness and mockery, reduced to a bad day. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I went home to my small apartment, changed into the custom Valentina Rossi gown I'd had made for tonight's gala, and called my driver. Yes, I had a driver now. And a stylist. And a security consultant who'd advised me to hire a bodyguard. But I'd kept all of it private, separate from my family life. It had been surprisingly easy. People see what they expect to see. My family expected me to be struggling, so they never looked deeper. The gala was being held at the Grandis Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city. My company, NextGen Technologies, had purchased an entire table and sponsored the main event. I arrived deliberately late, after cocktail hour had started. The moment I stepped out of the car, I saw them. Celeste and Henrik, standing near the entrance with champagne flutes, dressed in their finest. Celeste's hair was perfect, her dress probably cost thousands. But when she saw me, her glass actually slipped from her hand. It shattered on the marble steps. I was wearing midnight blue silk that had cost more than her car. My jewelry was minimal but exquisite, each piece custom designed. My confidence, though, that was priceless. That had been earned through years of quiet work while everyone around me assumed I was failing. Ravenna. My mother's voice came from behind Celeste. She and my father were there too, both staring at me like I was a stranger. Good evening, I said pleasantly. What is going on? My father demanded. We've been trying to reach you all day. Celeste told us some insane story about you withdrawing billions from a bank. The news is reporting that someone froze Helvetia First National's entire system with a massive transaction. That was me, I confirmed. Would you excuse me? I need to greet the other sponsors. I walked past them into the hotel. Behind me, I heard my mother's shocked gasp, Celeste's attempt to follow that was blocked by security checking invitations, Henrik's confused, what the hell is happening? Inside, the ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, orchestra playing, hundreds of wealthy donors in evening wear. The chairman of the charity spotted me immediately and rushed over. Miss Ravenna, we're so honored you could attend. Your contribution has been transformative for our mission. Please, let me introduce you to some of our board members. For the next 2 hours, I networked, smiled, discussed philanthropy and technology and investment opportunities. People who'd never known I existed now wanted my attention, my advice, my money. It was surreal and exhausting and oddly satisfying. Celeste and Henrik finally made it inside, though they hadn't been seated at the main sponsor tables. I watched from across the room as Celeste spoke urgently to my mother, both of them staring at me. My father looked pale, shell-shocked. Midway through dinner, the charity chairman stood to thank the major sponsors. When he got to my name, he asked me to stand. NextGen Technologies and their visionary chief technical officer, Miss Ravenna Castellane, have contributed $2.3 million to our cause. Miss Ravenna, would you like to say a few words? The room erupted in applause. I stood, feeling hundreds of eyes on me, including my family's. Thank you, I said into the microphone. I believe in this charity's mission because I understand what it means to be underestimated, to be dismissed, to have people assume you're incapable of greatness simply because you're quiet about your ambitions. This organization helps young entrepreneurs who don't have connections or family support, who are building something from nothing. That was me once. And I want to make sure others have the opportunities one had to create. More applause. As I sat down, I caught Celeste's eye across the room. She was crying, mascara running down her face. Henrik was staring at his plate. My parents looked lost. After dinner, my mother finally approached my table. Ravenna, we need to talk. As a family. Do we? I asked mildly. You've been lying to us for years. I haven't lied about anything. You never asked about my work. You never showed interest in my life beyond polite small talk. I simply stopped offering information you clearly didn't want. That's not fair, my father said, joining her. We're your parents. We care about you. You care about the version of me you invented. The struggling daughter you could feel superior to. The one who made Celeste's success look even brighter by comparison. That's not true, my mother protested. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked me about my interests? My goals? My work beyond that computer thing? When was the last time you defended me when Celeste mocked me? They had no answer. Celeste appeared then, Henrik reluctantly trailing behind her. Her makeup was ruined, her eyes red. Ravenna, I'm so sorry. I was horrible to you. I was jealous and mean and I said terrible things. You did, I agreed. But we're sisters. Family. That has to mean something, right? I looked at her for a long moment. 3 years ago, she'd laughed at me for needing $150. Tonight, she'd watched me donate $2.3 million without blinking. The symmetry was almost poetic. It means I won't be cruel to you the way you were to me, I said finally. But it doesn't mean I owe you my success, my money, or my forgiveness. You spent years making me feel small. I'm not interested in making you feel the same way. I'm just interested in moving forward with people who actually value me. Please don't cut us off, my mother begged. We made mistakes, but we can change. I'm not cutting anyone off. You're welcome to be in my life. But the relationship will be different now. I'm not your charity case or your disappointment. I'm a successful businesswoman who built something extraordinary. If you can respect that, we'll be fine. If you can't, then we'll be cordial and distant. Your choice. I stood, smoothing my gown. Now if you'll excuse me, I have several investors who want to discuss potential partnerships. Enjoy the rest of your evening. As I walked away, I heard Celeste sob something to Henrik, my mother's shocked whisper to my father. But I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to make them comfortable with my success. The rest of the gala was extraordinary. I made 3 new business contacts, pledged an additional $500,000 to another charity, and got invited to speak at a Women in Technology conference. When I finally left, well past midnight, I felt lighter than I had in years. My driver took me home to my small apartment. Yes, I could afford a penthouse now. A mansion. Multiple properties. But I wasn't ready to change everything at once. This space was where I'd built my empire. Where I'd studied and coded and dreamed while my family assumed I was failing. I'd move eventually. But on my timeline, not because anyone expected it. 3 days later, the withdrawal completed. $3.8 billion, transferred to my new accounts at Kronstadt Private Bank. The news reported it as the largest single-client withdrawal in Helvetia First National's history. They still didn't have my name, but speculation was rampant. My family had been sending messages constantly. Apologies, explanations, attempts to reconnect. I responded politely but distantly. Yes, we could have dinner next month. No, I wasn't interested in investing in Henrik's friend's startup. Yes, I'd come to Christmas, but I'd be leaving early for a business trip to Singapore. Celeste sent the longest message. Ravenna, I've been thinking about that day I refused to lend you $150. I wish I could take it back. Not because you're rich now, but because I was cruel when you needed help. I spent years feeling superior to you, and I don't even know why. Maybe because you were smarter than me, more capable, and I needed to believe I was better at something. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to know that I see now what I couldn't see then. You were never the failure I pretended you were. You were always destined for this. I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise. I read it 3 times. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat on my balcony with coffee, watching the sunrise over the city where I'd built my empire in secret. where I'd transformed humiliation into motivation, mockery into millions, dismissal into billions. Eventually, I typed back, "Thank you for saying that. It means something. We'll talk soon." Because that's the thing about revenge, I'd learned. The best kind isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. It's about becoming so undeniably successful that the people who doubted you have no choice but to see you clearly. Celeste had laughed at me for needing $150. Now she'd watched me move $3.8 billion like it was nothing. She'd seen me sponsor galas and command rooms and stand confident in spaces she'd never imagined I'd access. That was enough. I didn't need her broke or broken. I just needed her to know she'd been wrong. That I'd been capable all along. That her mockery had said everything about her and nothing about me. My phone buzzed. A text from my financial advisor: "The Kronstadt transfer is complete. Welcome to your new banking relationship. Also, 3 companies are requesting meetings about potential acquisition. Shall I schedule?" I smiled, typing back, "Schedule them. And let's discuss the scholarship fund I want to establish. For women in tech who don't have family support." Because that was the real revenge. Not just succeeding, but using that success to make sure others didn't face what I had. To build something bigger than my own vindication. 3 years ago, I'd needed $150 and been mocked for it. Today, I had billions and was using them to change lives. Celeste had been right about one thing: I did need to get my life together. I just did it in a way she never saw coming. And honestly, that made it so much sweeter.